Your hand might have hovered over the phone for the third night in a row, thumb ready, message unsent. Maybe you noticed yourself rereading the same line before deleting it again. That pause has a name, and tomorrow the sky names it too. 4 signs are about to be called out directly: Leo, Aquarius, Taurus, and Scorpio. If you're one of them, what happens next changes the weighting. There's a consequence sitting in your inbox, in your drafts, in that unsent message. It might stay unresolved past this week if nothing shifts. The sun's solar eclipse in Leo is arriving tomorrow, and this video resolves exactly what that pause has been protecting you from. Leo, Aquarius, Taurus, and Scorpio. These are the 4 signs this eclipse speaks to most directly, and we'll go deep into each one in a moment. But first, the fact itself. On August 12, at 1745 UTC, the sun reaches 20 degrees 03 Leo in a total solar eclipse. The moon sits close by at 20 degrees 07 Leo, the two bodies locked together at the same degree of sky. This configuration opens a window that started on August 9 and closes on August 15, 6 days in total. These numbers come from precise astronomical calculation, the sun's actual position tracked against the backdrop of the constellations, refined into the reading you're about to hear. A solar eclipse happens when the moon passes directly between the Earth and the sun, and this one lands squarely in Leo's territory. In the traditional reading, an eclipse in Leo is treated differently from an ordinary new moon. It doesn't just start something, it forces a closing first. Astrologers have long read eclipses as accelerated turning points, moments when a decision that's been avoided gets pushed toward resolution, whether you're ready or not. Leo governs identity, self-expression, the way you show up and ask to be seen. When an eclipse lands here, the tradition reads it as a spotlight, turning on exactly the area of life you've been quietly avoiding. Because whole sign houses read the eclipse's impact differently depending on which sign is rising in your chart, the same event lands as a different kind of pressure for different people. For some, it touches money. For others, relationships. For others, the shape of home itself. That's the traditional lens we'll use for each of the 4 signs ahead, and it's also the lens for the 8 that follow. The degree itself carries weight in traditional astrology, 20 degrees 0. 3 Leo sits in the 3rd decan of the sign, the portion astrologers have historically associated with Mars, lending this eclipse a sharper edge than a typical Leo placement might carry. The window of 6 days is not arbitrary. It reflects the period during which the eclipse's influence is considered most active, bookended by the opening on August 9 and the closing on August 15. Traditional astrology treats eclipses as moments when hidden patterns become visible, when what's been deferred can no longer wait. The Leo placement specifically amplifies questions of visibility, recognition, and the courage to be seen as you actually are, rather than as you've been performing. For Leo, this eclipse activates the 1st house, the house of self and identity, in the traditional reading tied to the rising sign. That's the house of how you present yourself to the world, and this week, it's wide open. But we're framing Leo's real story today through money, because identity and material security are more tangled than they look. You might catch yourself checking your bank balance more than usual this week, almost compulsively, as if the number itself could answer a bigger question. That habit isn't really about the money. It's about whether you trust yourself to be seen making a bold move, financial or otherwise, without flinching. The traditional reading of an eclipse in your own sign is intense. It asks you to end a version of yourself that's been playing it safe. For Leo specifically, that might show up as finally naming a price for your work, asking for the raise, or ending a financial arrangement that's quietly been undervaluing you. The action inside this window is concrete. Before August 15, write down the exact number you've been avoiding, saying out loud, whether it's a rate, a debt, or an amount you're owed. Say it to one person before the window closes, not the whole world, one person. If you let this pass, the pattern may just repeat at the next opportunity, because eclipses don't wait for you to feel ready, they simply move on without you. The cost isn't dramatic, it's quieter. Another 6 months of undercharging, under-asking, under-claiming what's already yours. The stars whisper secrets about worth here, and this week they're not being subtle about it. Here's the tension worth sitting with. An eclipse in your own sign reads, on paper, like pressure and exposure. Yet the traditional interpretation of Sun in Leo is generous, warm, almost celebratory. Both are true at once, and the next sign shows exactly how that contradiction resolves. For Aquarius, this eclipse lights up the 7th house, the house of partnerships, close relationships, and binding commitments, in the traditional reading for that rising sign. The 7th house is where the tradition places every serious us decision, marriage, business partnership, the relationship you keep calling complicated. An eclipse here doesn't ask you to start a relationship. It asks you to stop deferring a verdict on one that already exists. You might find yourself avoiding a specific conversation with a partner, rehearsing it in the shower, then talking about something else entirely once they're in the room. That's not indecision. That's the eclipse's pressure finding the exact seam you've been avoiding. The concrete action here: before August 15, name the actual question, out loud or in writing, that you've been circling. Not, how are we doing, but the real one. Are we moving in together? Is this exclusive? Do we end this? Traditionally, eclipses in the 7th house are read as relationship thresholds, not gentle nudges. Something tends to become undeniable during the window, whether or not you go looking for it. If the conversation gets postponed again, the relationship may not necessarily end, but it might freeze in place for longer than you'd like, and the uncertainty itself becomes the real cost. Timing is written in the sky for a reason, and for Aquarius this week, the timing says now, not later. Right now, this window is open and it closes in 4 days, on August 15. Whatever you've been meaning to do with this energy, the runway is shorter than it feels. 2 more signs are waiting, and they carry the sharpest reversals yet. For Taurus, the eclipse activates the 4th house, the house of home, family, and roots, in the traditional reading for that rising sign. The 4th house holds the literal walls you live inside and the people you call family, and this week, that foundation gets tested rather than decorated. You might notice yourself avoiding a call from a parent, or letting a conversation about moving, staying, or renovating drift for the 3rd week running. The eclipse doesn't create the tension in that household decision, it just refuses to let you keep pretending it isn't there. Traditionally, eclipse activity in the 4th house is read as a moment when a living situation that's been temporary for too long has to declare itself permanent or end. The concrete action inside this window: pick the one household or family decision you've been calling not urgent and set an actual date for addressing it before August 15, even if the date is just for a conversation, not a resolution. If it stays unaddressed, the arrangement may just continue by default, and default is rarely what you'd choose if you chose consciously. Energy flows like water, and water always finds the lowest point. For Taurus, that lowest point is home, and it's asking to be noticed this week. For Scorpio, this eclipse falls in the 10th house, the house of career, public standing, and material security, in the traditional reading for that rising sign. The 10th house is where the tradition places your name in the world, your title, your reputation, the position you've built. You might catch yourself rereading a job offer, a contract, or a resignation letter you've drafted and never sent. That's the 10th house making itself impossible to ignore. An eclipse here is traditionally read as a career threshold. A role ends, publicly or quietly, and something else has to take its place, whether you initiate it or not. The action for this window: if there's a document, an application, or a resignation sitting unfinished, finish it before August 15, even if you don't send it yet. Completion, not submission, is the goal inside this window. The conversation stays postponed, the document stays a draft, the balance stays unchecked, and the whole arrangement simply continues by default for another few months, maybe longer. Astrologers have long read a missed eclipse window, not as punishment, but as a delay. The same decision tends to resurface later, at a less convenient time, with less warning. Embrace the celestial dance while it's still asking you to move, because right now, it's still asking. Either way, nothing about this is fixed in stone, and the choice, as always, sits with you rather than with the sky. The tradition reminds us that eclipses reveal what was already present but hidden. They don't create circumstances from nothing. Whatever this week is bringing to the surface was already there, waiting for the right moment to be seen. Tell me your sign in the comments. Subscribe if this found you at the right moment. As the moon reflects the sun, may your spirit shine brightly in the universe's embrace.